Hey there! If you're curious about the wonders and secrets of ancient Egypt, you've come to the right place. We'd really appreciate your support, so please go ahead and subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. It helps us a lot, and you won't miss any of our future journeys into history. The shocking truth about Moses' Egyptian adoptive mother. Who was she really? Have you ever wondered about the hidden story of Moses' adoptive mother? The real truth about her identity might just change everything you thought you knew about this mysterious woman. To understand her story, we need to go back about 3,500 years to ancient Egypt, one of the greatest and most influential civilizations in history. Around 1500 BC, Egypt was at its peak, ruled by powerful pharaohs who were seen almost like gods on earth. They had absolute authority, building majestic temples, monuments, and running a complex society. But behind the glory was a dark shadow. The Israelites had been enslaved. The descendants of Jacob had come to Egypt centuries earlier during the time of Joseph, who had risen to power. Over time, their story was forgotten and they were forced into slavery. The Pharaoh of that era feared their growing numbers, worrying that they might join Egypt's enemies in case of war. Out of fear, he issued a brutal order. Every newborn Hebrew boy must be thrown into the Nile, as told in Exodus chapter 1, verse 22. His plan was nothing less than the destruction of a whole generation. In the middle of this tragedy, the story of Moses begins. His mother, Jochebed, faced a heartbreaking choice. Pharaoh's decree meant her newborn son's life was in danger. She hid him for 3 months, but she couldn't keep him safe forever. So, with both despair and hope in her heart, she made a daring plan. She built a small basket, coated it with tar to make it waterproof, placed her baby inside, and set him among the reeds by the Nile, trusting that God would guide his destiny. Not far away, Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to bathe. She spotted the basket among the reeds and sent one of her servants to fetch it. Inside was a crying baby boy. The Bible says in Exodus chapter 2, verses 5 and 6, she opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Despite knowing he was one of the Hebrew boys her father had ordered to be killed, her heart was filled with compassion. When Moses was old enough, Jochebed brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who formally adopted him as her own son. From that moment, Moses was raised in the royal palace. He grew up surrounded by wealth, privilege, and the best education Egypt could offer, learning to read, write, and study arts, sciences, and leadership. This upbringing prepared him for the great mission that lay ahead. So who was this Egyptian princess who defied her father's cruel decree? And how did her brave choice shape the destiny of Moses and an entire nation? That's the mystery we'll explore next. One of the most fascinating mysteries in this story is the true identity of the princess who adopted Moses. The Bible never gives her name, but many historians and scholars suggest she could have been Hatshepsut, one of the most remarkable women in Egyptian history. Hatshepsut, the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose, lived during Egypt's powerful 18th dynasty. She was intelligent, ambitious, and strong. Unlike most royal women, she didn't remain in the background. She eventually rose to power and ruled as Pharaoh herself, something almost unheard of for a woman in ancient Egypt. If Hatshepsut really was the princess who adopted Moses, it adds a whole new dimension to the story. Imagine her as a young princess finding a Hebrew baby floating on the Nile. By choosing to save him, she wasn't just showing compassion, she was defying her father's brutal law. That act revealed her independence and courage, qualities that would later define her reign as Pharaoh. Growing up under her protection, Moses would have received the finest education in Egypt. He would have learned to read and write hieroglyphs, studied government and administration, and trained in warfare and diplomacy. He would also have been exposed to Egypt's religion, rituals, and culture. All of this prepared him, without him even realizing it, for his future role as a leader and liberator. The Bible confirms this in Acts chapter 7, verse 22. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action. His palace upbringing gave him not just knowledge, but the confidence and skills to stand before Pharaoh one day. Yet he never forgot his Hebrew roots. One day he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, and something inside him snapped. Fueled by anger and a sense of justice, Moses killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. But the act didn't stay hidden. When word spread, Moses realized his life was in danger and he fled Egypt. He left behind the comfort of the palace and started a new life in the land of Midian. There he married Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, and worked as a shepherd. Years passed, but God was shaping him for something greater. One day, while tending the flock, Moses encountered a burning bush that wasn't consumed by the flames. As he approached, he heard God call his name. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 10, God gave Moses his mission. "Now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." Moses hesitated, aware of his past and his weaknesses. But the truth was that everything he had learned in Egypt, the education, the leadership training, the exposure to politics and culture, was preparation for this very moment. The compassion of Pharaoh's daughter, her choice to adopt him, and the years of training in the royal court had all been part of God's plan. Moses' journey, from prince to shepherd to deliverer, wasn't accidental. It was divinely guided. His adoptive mother's act of mercy set everything into motion, shaping him into the man who would lead Israel out of slavery and into freedom. Finally, thank you so much for listening and joining us on this journey through history. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe, like, and comment. And well, don't forget to follow the channel for more fascinating